Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm posting, well, I'm not posting. I'm doing a couple of videos kind of back to back here, just looking at my schedule. So these messages that I'm doing today will be posted a week apart from each other. But of course, something may happen a week from now that I'll want to say something else. But I'm doing a couple of messages today for whatever that's worth. And today being what? September 2nd. So it'll get posted on Wednesday, ideally, on Wednesday. Okay, here it goes. Another message with regard to the politics of Caesar that I'm getting in a lot of hot water for. Earlier this month, I addressed, last month, I addressed the Los Angeles ICE raids and military deployment in response to the ensuing protests. I cautioned that the language used by the Trump administration, specifically the use of the words insurrection, invasion, obstructing, and abdicated, combined with the overall tone and approach towards the situation, was not coincidental. Rather, it suggested the regime of Trump was laying groundwork to justify and declare martial law. I further surmised that synchronized legal language and well-orchestrated response to the situation in California suggested that the GOP was almost certainly being coached by the very constitutional lawyers who were the architects of Project 2025. Since then, a similar military takeover has occurred, in my childhood backyard, right, Washington, D.C. And Trump claims, that this latest show of force is intended to combat homelessness and high crime. While there is a significant homeless population in our nation's capital, it's no higher than any other major metropolitan area. A military takeover won't solve homelessness. It'll hide it, right? Economist Robert Reich recently pointed out that the cost to operate public housing for DC's entire homeless population would be about $169,226 per day. The cost for National Guard deployment in DC per day, $424,000. Similarly, while there is certainly crime in D.C., it's no higher than many other metropolitan areas. In fact, it's statistically lower than some cities in several red states: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri. 4 red states that have sent troops to Washington. Those states boast some of the highest murder rates in the U.S. On August 20th, J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, and Peter Hegseth took a trip to D.C.'s Union Station. Maybe you saw that unfolding. The visit was a made-for-TV moment designed to reinforce a narrative aimed at red state audiences. As Vance schlepped, hamburgers to the troops, Miller was heckled by protesters, Miller referred to them as stupid, elderly, white, communist hippies. Miller went on to say, and by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. Okay. Such divisive language leads me to believe that, just like Los Angeles, the regime's march on Washington and desire to march on Chicago is aimed at something much more nefarious. Martial law isn't enough. They want, it seems like, an all-out civil war. And they just might get their wish. 81 years and 9 months ago, our nation was bitterly divided. An eerily reminiscent sting of division is again infecting our nation, permeating communities, families, and friends. Heckling those opposed to the party in power is hardly statesmanship. Yet it comes as no surprise considering the GOP seems less concerned with governing for all people and focused instead more on unmitigated cruelty and degradation. It's all deliberate and aimed at inciting rebellion. Although they maintain a fierce grip on power, Republicans fear losing their majority so much that gerrymandering simply isn't enough. To retain control, conservatives believe they need to stoke fear and pit neighbor against neighbor. They do a pretty good job at it. First come the military takeovers of blue cities. Consequently, the citizens push back, surprise, surprise, against the troops. The regime then declares martial law. Opponents take to the streets in a show of force. And in response, the regime calls on its supporters to stand against the opposition, thus inciting a civil war. Sounds crazy, right? Yet just a few weeks ago, a month ago now, I guess, Trump quipped that if the nation engaged in a brutal war at the end of his term, he could remain in office. The president claims those who oppose his movement hate our country. I guess by Mr. Trump's definition, I hate our country, which I don't. The same can be said of many within his movement. Time and again, Steve Bannon and other MAGA lieutenants have called for burning it all down. Well, although I don't think reducing our nation to ashes is exactly prudent, for more than a decade now, I've alluded to, I've said democracy, at least as we know it, is little more than a guise aimed at making us believe we are free and we are secure. In fact, we're more controlled and vulnerable than most of us could probably fathom. An authentic democracy would require a complete overhaul of an antiquated, corrupt establishment. Contrary to what MAGA believes, the Trump administration isn't looking to restore democracy. They are hell-bent on installing an oligarchy. God help us. Amen.